You're watching Telecom TV from the second annual TIP Summit in Santa Clara. And I'm joined now by Salil Sawhney of Facebook and Andreas Gladish of Deutsche Telekom. Salil and Andreas, thank you both for joining us on Telecom TV. Now you are the co-chairs of the TIP Millimetre Wave project group, quite a recent project group that's just been set up. Salil, can you tell me more about the project group and what it is you hope to achieve?
So the Millimetre Wave Network Project Group is really focused on delivering high bandwidth connectivity in urban areas across the globe. And if you look at kind of the demands for data, which are growing at an exponential rate across all urban areas, we have a massive challenge to deliver network capacity, and that can only be solved with dense wireless networks. And given that dense wireless networks need substantial amounts of spectrum, Millimetre Wave presents that opportunity to solve that challenge, and that's actually what we are investing our energies in.
And Andreas, why the focus on 60 gigahertz though?
Yeah, there's one motivation. So we want to go for use cases dealing with wireless to the home, wireless to the building, and mobile backhauling, as explained by Salil. And perhaps we even go for smart cities. And cost economy is the most challenging point for any application in that area. And we strongly believe in the idea that we can get cost advantages from building the ecosystem. And one element is going for unlicensed spectrum, sure, and mass market technology that can be applied in different areas that you get a huge volume of equipment.
Just picking up on what Andreas has just said there, just to be absolutely clear, we're not talking reinventing cellular systems for microwave here. This is a specific use cases that are fixed wireless access.
That's absolutely right. So we are focusing on specifically like three scenarios: wireless to the home or building, backhaul for either small cells or Wi-Fi access points, or delivering backhaul connectivity for smart cities. Right? These are the three fundamental areas that we are focusing on, and it's really building a fixed access network to deliver high bandwidth connectivity in these cases.
So something I was reading about, Andreas, on how you're tackling this. You're not just looking at hardware. You are looking at hardware, but you're also going to be exploring software and best practices.
Absolutely right, absolutely right. So millimeter wave technology is a complementary technology to the existing technologies that we have in place for broadband access. And if you compare the millimeter wave solution with other technologies, you immediately see that the complexity of equipment is much, much higher than the complexity of, let's say, fiber to the home. So, and to manage that complexity, meaning we have a lot of active elements in the access network, and we have to plan line of sight, etc. So to manage that requires a lot of new software solutions, a lot of planning automation, machine learning, etc.
So Salil, how are you structuring the work within the project group? I understand you're looking at 4 distinct areas.
So as Andreas explained, we have 4 working groups that are part of this project group. Number one focused on the economic side of things, really trying to understand what is the business case that exists to deliver high bandwidth connectivity, and if you were to use millimeter wave as an option to deliver that connectivity approach, how can you make that meaningful from a revenue standpoint? How can you make sure that CapEx, OpEx actually is going to be significantly lower than your existing approaches that you have in place? So that's kind of the first area working group. The second is network planning. As you try to densify these networks, having crews of people go out and try to deploy these networks at a large scale is extremely time consuming, and it comes at a huge cost. So can we use capabilities where we use LiDAR data, process that using computer vision as well as a combination of AI and machine learning, where you can identify street furniture, figure out where you can install equipment, find line of sight paths, because that's crucial for millimeter wave, and quickly deploy and plan these networks, right? So that's the second area of emphasis. Third is validation. anytime you deploy a new technology, you want to make sure that operators are comfortable with that, and every operator can potentially take a different route to that, which can potentially increase the amount of time it takes from a time to market perspective. So if we can kind of align on the approach that can be taken or the methodology to validate these technologies, that significantly reduces the amount of time it takes to get this out in the field. And that's one of the key intents. And the last thing is, if you want to deploy dense networks, you have this massive challenge of how can you make sure that you have siting permits? How can you make sure that you have the right kinds of spectrum? How do you collaborate with cities where it's a win-win between the cities providing access to street furniture as well as operators being able to deploy this infrastructure? So these are the key 4 areas that we're working on in this project group.
Now, you were saying before we started about, we've only been going a month or 4 or 5 weeks since the announcement of the project group. And yet you're doing a lot of this in a short space of time, because as I understand it, you've got more than 200 members already in the group, which is incredible. And also, Deutsche Telekom has done something in Berlin, I believe. Is that connected?
Yeah, it's connected. So we set up a community lab. So you may know that one element of TIP in general is setting up community labs that help other entities to do some testing, to learn about the technology. And we did set up a community lab in Berlin dealing with millimeter wave technologies. So it took us less than 1 month to bring it into place. It was great success, and we opened last week.
Great, and it's a silly question in a way. Early days, only a month into the process, but where is the end goal? What do you want to eventually achieve, and where do you hope to get to when you say that's it, work done?
So I think the end goal is really when we can actually see networks being deployed based on the approach that we have taken, where we have a combination of hardware and software that can potentially be disaggregated, meaning that you don't have a single solution vendor providing everything. You can have separation of hardware and software approach where you have multiple solutions, and you can see a lot more innovation in this space, and that gives you that diversity which helps you meet different use cases. And that's when we will believe that we are actually successful.
Salil and Andreas, thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.